We don't. We don't have an intro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Goodnight. Hello. Of Goodnight,
Hello.
everybody. I am here, as always, your host, Christopher Lawrence, and with me is sidekick Steven. Say hello, Steven.
Hello, Steven.
I knew you were going to do it.
It's you.
Um,
You set me up. It's
We have
T-ball.
we have a remarkable guest tonight who we'll bring on in a few minutes. But first, Steven, how has your? Did I talk to you since Christmas? I did. I didn't.
You
I
did.
did.
We had a whole
Oh
thing
yeah, we had
last
Christmas
week.
episode. We had a Christmas
Yeah.
episode. Hey-oh.
The Christmas episode that was all Power Rangers all the time. That was the episode. It was the
Well, that
whole
was your
thing was you trying to
No, we did
guess
not discuss
12.
a single Power Ranger.
Well, that's
In fact,
true. It was the monsters.
I took umbrage of this because you showed me a
monsters.
bunch of perverted, weird, mutated monstrosities in bondage gear, and you tried to get me to say disparaging things about people who've entered this country totally legally and chosen to drive taxis, and I didn't take your bait. And then you told me we couldn't talk about the heroes because I had not behaved myself according to your whims. So that's what happened. For anyone that hasn't seen it.
Chris, before we get too deep in there, did you make sure to stream this to your YouTube channel as well?
No, I don't know how do I do that?
Up in the upper left-hand corner, you can add your own channels in there to make it stream to there.
I can't do that.
Yeah. You did it last week. Okay. He clicked the end stream button. Okay, so I'm going to bring John McCann on, and we'll see if we get Chris back. Maybe we'll do some more banter back and forth. But John P. McCann, the man, the myth, the mystery in the flesh, heir to the shoe fortune, which is where, as I understand it, where you got your start was in shoes.
It was a family business. We were quite proud of it. But I found out there was more. There was more to life than that. I wanted something different. They stink, frankly, to tell you the truth. They're this is before Dr. Scholl's. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, so you went then from shoes to comedy, which is a natural progression. Most people go from shoes to comedy,
or tower sniping. Yeah.
One of the two. Well, I think it's shoes, comedy, tower sniping. Nobody really goes from shoes directly to tower sniping. That's
the avant-garde do.
Well, see, I was not aware. I really sing as though I'm just kind of getting my toe into the comedy business at the young old age of 38. I figure that I should I haven't gone through. Oh, Chris is coming back, so we'll pull him in. Sorry, Chris,
you punked me. I can't believe I fell for that.
So
little duck.
We were just talking about how people go from shoes to comedy to sniping, or from shoes to sniping.
You know what I did? Yesterday, without noticing, I put on 2 different socks. So today, I had to go ahead and put on 2 different socks. I only have 4 socks. Is what I'm saying.
You're a trailblazer.
Yeah, as you do.
You're not afraid of that.
You have 4 different socks or 4 pairs?
No, I have 4 socks.
4 socks. Oh, so like you have like an odd and even
4
day?
socks. It's just that I put on 2 mismatched ones without noticing.
See, I have
forced me today to have to do the same thing.
See, I like to,
and I don't
every once in a while, I'll just buy a new package of socks and I'll go run through that, and then
it must be
my
nice.
old socks get lost. I mean, I would, if I were like 1990s comedy writer rich, I would be buying new socks. I would never wear a pair of socks twice. It would always be new socks. Old shoes, new socks. Because new shoes, they cut into your feet,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, John.
They could.
Yeah, because the backs aren't worn out yet.
Yeah. Or, you dig the pain. One of the way,
Or just buy comfortable shoes, Stephen. Well, I mean,
so no matter how comfortable a shoe you buy, it always starts out
with a
with
nice moccasin.
Are you moccasining me?
Huh?
I shifted you to main spot because I thought that you should look at John instead of looking at the side.
As you should.
Yeah. So I relinquished.
John, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're very happy to. You can just don't pay attention to him. He's fine. Thank you for joining us. We're very, very blessed to have you, and are big fans of all your work. And Stephen thought you were the shoe guy, Tom McCann, but I filled him in, and so he's now happy to have you also. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Glad you had my back on the whole shoe thing.
Of course. I know where my bread is buttered, John, and we have a high-profile guest such as yourself. I'm not going to side with this guy. Oh, I disappeared. Did you see that? Amazing.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's
so,
back.
John,
See, that's a real background right there. This is my reel behind me. His behind him is.
I don't want to hear about your reel behind. Just every time we do this, there's something with you. Last time it was, I don't want to talk about it. Leave your behind out of this. So, John, where do we start? How about we start with where you started? How did you first get involved in comedy in any aspect? Was writing the first thing, or is there a performance background? How did it go for you?
I started out in stand-up back in Chicago, and so it's a big comedy boom going on then. Clubs were opening up all over the place. It was a good time to do that. But yeah, it was everybody was just doing as much as they could to build up their time, so they had about a half hour or more of material, so they could come out to Los Angeles and go to the Comedy Store, which was the mecca of everybody. But I eventually got there, but I wasn't really cut out for stand-up. I wasn't sober a lot of times, so that kind of threw my timing off. But eventually I found improv comedy, and I don't know, that seemed to click with me. It was great working with people, building little scenes. Paul Rugg, who's been on here, he and I worked together for years. It was a lot of fun. But then one of our old directors from improv, one group we'd been in, he was married to Sherry Stoner, who was working on Tiny Toons at the time. And so they were looking for writers for Animaniacs, and then Paul and I got sample scripts. They just wanted to see how we approached the characters and what we did with them. And they liked them well enough that they brought us on board, and then we just milked it for as long as we could.
Right. Well, yes, we've had the great Paul Rugg on here a couple times on the show. Stephen claims to know him. He says he's appeared at his festival for some reason. He must pay very well. But I'm a big fan of. You might have noticed the name of the show. It's inspired, obviously, by Animaniacs being Goodnight, everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan, and I love the chance to talk to anybody that was involved in any of that stuff. And Paul says that you are the man. He gives so much of the credit for anything brilliant on those shows to you, and so we were extra excited to talk to you about it. What do you remember the experience being like when you first got on board with Animaniacs? Had you done writing for any TV before this? Was that your first gig?
No, I had done freelance work on these a couple of animated shows. I did some work for Disney on a new show they were trying to develop, and then I did work on I did one episode of Tiny Toons, so it wasn't new, but to be full-time, to be on staff was new. The wages of being full-time on staff were, Paul and I were both pretty broke, so it was really great. It was a godsend.
Yeah. How long did you attempt the stand-up?
A couple of years.
It's rough.
I came out here, I did, I would do the usual round, the Improv, the Ice House, whatever was a Comedy Store, whatever was available. But I just, it just wasn't for me. It was a lot of work, especially when you get out here. If you're a comic, you're basically on stage playing for a bunch of comics who are also going to be on stage in a moment. Yeah. So, a lot of guys, they wouldn't laugh to save their lives, but it's just an odd experience. And some guys thrive at it. They're excellent at it. And I just found I was better at improv, and I enjoyed it more, and really felt at home.
I'm the worst at improv.
You are the worst.
Like, I just
How long did you do improv, Stephen?
I've tried to do improv a number of times. Just see, my own mindset is like this really abstraction. Like my view of comedy is more like a Norm Macdonald type of comedy thing, and so we're trying to do like an improv thing.
Sure,
It
is,
doesn't
Steven.
always land. No, it's just like what I find funny
Sure it
is
is.
not what most people find funny. Like that
Right.
just kind of. Not saying that I'm as good as Norm Macdonald is at
Oh, you're
comedy.
not
I'm
saying.
saying like,
Oh, you're not as good
I'm,
as Norm Macdonald?
no,
Oh,
I'm
are you
saying
not?
that.
Oh,
that
see,
my
because I
set,
brought you on the show under the pretenses that you were just as
no,
good as Norm Macdonald.
No,
no.
if he were like Norm Macdonald, he'd be spending most of his time trying to manipulate you into saying the worst jokes in the world.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
And then acting astounded and hurt that would come out of your mouth.
Well, that
Can't
never
believe
happens
you
on the
say
show.
that.
Yeah.
No.
Nobody on the
That's
show
definitely not.
actually.
Yeah,
That's definitely not him.
That has
yeah,
not happened.
Norm was definitely next level. He was a very surreal guy.
He's
I
a
loved him.
comics. He was a comics comic. He was the
Yeah.
comedian that comedians love, but that the general public just didn't understand most of his stuff because
Well,
it was
now everybody claims to love him so much, and he was the best, and blah blah blah.
Right, but he was not afraid to bomb. I
No,
mean,
he
No.
liked it.
he would just go out there and he would eat that up. He'd read that joke book from the 1940s, you know,
Yeah.
he claimed his father had given it to him. And then he would read these corniest, you know, dad jokes, you know, out there. And then the audience, there'd be this nervous laughter. And you know, you could tell he was just eating it up.
Yeah.
When he would go on like Conan, and the audience just wasn't getting it, but Conan was just cracking up because
Yeah.
Conan got it. It just
He was
good times.
Conan's favorite, and Letterman too. He was Letterman's absolute favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He did the last stand-up set on Letterman's show during his run. He was the last one to do stand-up on there.
Okay.
He wasn't O.J. Simpson's favorite though. Not
No.
by a long shot. No.
No,
definitely.
that ended up taking him out, I think. Eventually.
Yeah, got him off SNL. Yeah,
Yeah.
Don Omeyer fired him because he was buddies, like golfing buddies with OJ. And
Yeah.
so he told Norm, I remember this, he told Norm that he wasn't funny. And so Norm said, "Oh, that's not good."
Yeah.
Or was it? And then he came back to host the next year, and he's like, "Last year they fired me because I wasn't funny enough, and now I'm hosting. So either I've gotten better, or the show's gotten worse, and I haven't gotten any better."
Yeah, he would find a way to return fire. I always
Yeah.
like that about him.
Oh yeah.
But you, John, your comedy. I mean, Norm Macdonald's great, but you and your comedy career, you did. I'm just looking up the IMDb just to
Oh, yeah, do
reverse
your
myself.
preparation now.
I
That's what you
do. I know. I always do. But like, I'm
Normally
seeing,
he's like ordering pizza on here.
I don't. I
Uh-huh.
actually I finished my chocolate orange, so I don't have anything to eat. I do have actually a box full of cookies that I might break out later.
He makes racist Italian jokes constantly
Not
because I'm
first
Italian.
off, I'm Italian. It's cool. It's fine.
Well,
I can do
that's
what
what
I-
you say, but
Yeah.
you have an
Governor,
awfully low opinion of Italians for someone that's Italian.
that's because I'm Italian. I know.
Yeah. Well, he's an insider. So
That's right.
Well, I'm more Italian than you.
I don't know. I don't know if you are.
Okay? We're gonna go through this again.
Okay, let's go.
Do you remember how you said on the second episode? I think no, it was the first one.
Sure.
You said you were trying to make Gouda cheese
Yes.
with your goat.
Yes. Go.
And you
milk.
ended up accidentally. This is what you said,
Yes.
Steven. This is verbatim. You accidentally made what you called pecorino parmigiano, which is not real.
It's just
That's not a
Parmesan.
thing. No, that's not what you said.
Okay.
By accident. Now, this is
Yes.
one of the most tightly regulated, if we're talking about Parmigiano Reggiano, this is one of the most tightly regulated cheeses on earth. You
Yeah.
accidentally made what you called Parmigiano Pecorino
Sure.
in an attempt to make Gouda.
Yes.
So I don't know how
Goat
Italian
milk.
bona fides are.
First off, no matter what cheese I try to make, it either comes out as mozzarella
John,
or
you would not
Parmesan.
believe the things he has told me on this show. He told me his goats, he has a little farm there.
Yeah.
He told me his goats taught his cow to assault him.
Yes.
He said, this is what he told me. He said he got mounted by his cow one day. Not
successfully. Not successfully.
Okay. Well, of course not successfully. It's a cow, Stephen. He doesn't understand biology either. It's a cow. It's a female.
Yeah.
Were you
So of course not
filming
successful.
any of this?
I did not film any of it. I was
I
just
did.
I was okay.
But then when I questioned him, when I said, how does this happen? This is a female animal, first of all, a cow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And second of all, how does this happen? And his explanation was, oh, she learned it from the goats.
Yeah. She did.
So apparently
she was raised by goats.
The goats were assaulting him.
Not me. They assaulted each other.
And thought that Stephen was a goat.
Something, yeah.
There's some pheromones involved here that causing this.
It's a dominance thing anyway. I got a bull in
about a chicken. I don't know what he talks about half the time.
The turkeys, the Italian, the guy, the Italian who was looking for turkeys. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun. It's good. I have a farm. I have now 3 cows because we just got another bull in. I have 3 cows, and I've got 3 goats and about 40 chickens and 2 turkeys, a goose and a duck, and 4 dogs.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds like a growing family there.
I have 7 kids. So this is the thing.
Not goat kids. He's got real kids.
And you have time for this. That's impressive.
It's an hour a week, and he
doesn't prepare.
So. Never. I never prepare for this. I come on, I'm completely unprepared. But I did want to bring this up because we've had this. So whenever we invite someone on, 9 times out of 10 they are Catholic, and there's only one.
Okay, let's not. Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying it just happens to be the case that because he says, hey, let's bring this person on, and then like okay. And then I see something that makes me think that they are Catholic, or I have to ask if they're Catholic.
It's a coincidence.
It's a coincidence. So, John, would you please let us know?
No, you can't ask that. You can't. You can't talk about religion, politics, racist jokes. We go through this all the time. Cow assault.
We can talk about cow assaults. We've done it before.
Well, I had to let him know what he was getting into. No more of that. So you can't.
Okay.
There's something in the Constitution that says you can't do that. I don't know.
See, I'm Catholic comedy, so I think I put it out there, and Chris says he's Catholic on occasion.
No, I always am.
Okay,
but I'm like Kevin James. You wouldn't know.
You say it on occasion
if you didn't know.
Okay, John, are you Catholic?
I am indeed. I have the guilt to prove it.
Yeah, I'm guilty about hiring this guy.
Yeah, it was a poor choice on his part, but here we are.
Well, the other guy quit.
I win.
That's what happened. We had Brian on, and he quit.
I don't even know who Brian is.
Huh?
I don't know who Brian was. I have no idea.
Brian was that guy that does kung fu or whatever, and he sells yo-yos.
So fascinating occupations.
Yeah, he didn't tell me that until late. He does martial arts and sells yo-yos. He's a good guy.
Martial arts and yo-yos. I wonder if he combines them together. And
John, do you find that improv helped you more in the writing for something like Animaniacs than the stand-up writing did? Is there any through line between the two of those? Is it a totally different beast? Because when we had Paul Rugg on, I assumed that a lot of the stuff going on Animaniacs was like people goofing around, talented writers and comedians goofing around in the writing room, and it being fairly improv. But Paul said it was on the page, that it was pretty strictly what was there, that you guys were writing it down and it was being read as is. So do you find that the stand-up background helped with that writing at all, or did the mind of an improv performer kind of get you more on track for that?
Well, the improv we wrote, we would improv and then we'd also write and perform in our own sketches. So that was we were used to writing and standing by our product, so it was a little more, it wasn't just you write something 9 months later, it appears on screen. It's you write something and then the next week you try it in front of strangers and see if they laugh. So, you have to develop your kind of a good sense of humor as you go. And most of the people in the initial group of Animaniacs came out of improv. The Groundlings, which is a local group in LA, turns out a ton of good people.
Oh, yeah.
Our group, Acme Comedy Players, it was mostly there were very few just pure writers. Nick Hollander, I think, was one of the few. But, Deanna Oliver, Peter Hastings, Paul, myself, we're all out of Sherry Stoner. We're all out of improv comedy. The joke is that they wanted to hire sitcom writers, but they cost too much. So they said, we'll get these improv guys, for pennies on the dollar. And, but it worked out okay. But I think that that helped. The fact that we were used to writing our own stuff helped, because a lot of Animaniacs especially was a series of scenes where you just have to try and pack them all into a scene and see what you could come up with. So it was definitely a big help to write improv.
Was there a lot of collaboration in the writing process? Were you all kind of isolated on your own, writing your stuff and then bringing it out to the room and doing read-throughs? What was the process kind of like?
There was no room per se. You often hear of the writer's room.
Sure, yeah.
It's a sitcom and it's a more popular animation. It was more like trial by isolation. You'd get an assignment, and then you'd get a deadline for that assignment, and then you'd go off into your room and you would write it. And of course, you'd visit friends. We walk over to each other's office, or you'd read a part, or you'd ask somebody about something. You do it all on your own, but basically that was yours, and you stood by it, you did the rewrites on it, and everything else like that. So it was effective. We did it that way throughout.
Was it the case of like trying to get something on in like a Saturday Night Live kind of sense? Like people would write their bits and bring it to the group, and then was there like a voting process, or
no?
How did bits get on the how did scenes get on the show? Was there an overarching kind of theme for each episode, and you were just given a specific part of it to write?
No, it was the first Animaniacs was mostly it's just this wild bunch of individual sketches that Tom Ruger built into a show. So basically, he was judge, jury, and executioner. You'd say, I've got this idea, I want to do this thing with say Pinky and the Brain and the Odyssey or something like that, where they're the, the Brain's ideas are what makes Ulysses look so smart, but Pinky screws them all up, something like that. It would be about that. And then you talk to him and he said, we'll write something up. You'd write up about a half page. And then depending on how desperate they were to get stuff up on the air, how behind they were, he'd say, okay, good, go to script with that. And then you'd turn that in and, at the deadline, and he'd have his notes for you, and then you'd go back and forth with him to develop it. And sometimes it'd just fly right through. Other times you'd be bounced around a bit, but he was basically it. He was the last word.
Favorite bit? What was your favorite bit?
Steven, is someone at your house riding a carousel?
Why not?
No, that's your chair.
That's my kids are in bed and they have lullabies to play while they're in bed. So this is just, if you hear anything in the background.
These are earth-shattering decibels. Who's sleeping to this?
It shouldn't be earth-shattering decibels.
Because every time you move your chair, it sounds like someone is boiling a witch.
It's my witch chair. I've had this chair for longer than you've been alive, which is not true, because I think you're older than me.
Well, you can't prove that.
I can't prove anything. No.
Well, take some of the oil that you're boiling the witch in and squirt it on the hinge of that chair, so that it stops making that god awful noise. And if next time, maybe just turn the carousel down just a little bit.
We'll see.
I love a carousel as much as the next guy.
Who doesn't?
But, during the show,
we have a guest. John,
with a guest as esteemed as John McCann. I mean, maybe not the time, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe this is the perfect time for a carousel, Steven. Maybe we should have two carousels. Maybe I should have a carousel.
Well, carousels, witch burning.
Sure.
That's
an Animaniacs episode right there.
This is a different show, right? Right now.
That makes us unique. This is what I have to deal with this. My eardrums have been blown out on every episode. by witch screaming, horny cows, and now a carousel. Unbelievable.
Who needs acid?
Yeah, exactly. Well, last time he was telling me he almost burned his house down.
I did. Oh,
Because
yes.
he was trying to make pudding.
Yes.
And somehow he was smoking pot, he said.
No,
and
put
the
pot
in a
was
towel
full of smoke.
And threw the hot pudding towel on the floor. And then when he realized what he had done, that he had made his floor a big wet mess of pudding, he said, well, I have a good idea. The stove's on. I'll throw it up on there to dry it off.
No, that's not.
And he almost burned his house down. And I said, well, when you're smoking pot, you don't know, you're out of your head. You don't know what you're doing. And this is what happens, Steven. And then you come on live on the air. And then he's mad at me because I talk about it. Well, he brought it up. It's not my fault.
There are no family secrets here.
Yeah, I guess not. I tell him every time, like, Steven, this is live. I can't help you. It's live. If you talk about this pudding, and then he's like, my boss is mad. This is what he tells me. My boss is mad. Whoa. Blame me. It's not my fault.
John, have you ever made plum pudding, John?
I haven't. I've seen pictures of it though.
You take all the stuff.
You said it was figgy pudding. You said it was figgy.
It's the same thing. Figgy pudding, plum pudding.
Was it figs or was it plums? I think they're different.
It's plums. I think it was plums, but it wasn't actually plums. Plum pudding doesn't.
I'm surprised you remember what it was.
Anyway,
toasted out of your head.
You put it all inside of a bag, and you boil that bag for 4 hours.
That was a bag. It was a towel.
It's a towel, but you could do a bag or a towel.
Was it a bag or a towel?
It was a towel.
See what happens, John. What happens is wherever he gets his whatever he does, they're putting something in it because it's whoa, and the story changes. He can't tell a towel from a bag.
4 hours.
I advise him against all this.
Boiling on the stove, and the water boiled away, and then the bag.
But water would do that, Stephen. That's what water does.
The towel was smoking inside of the
towel was
pot.
Smoking.
And so I brought it outside, and I opened it. The smoke escaped, oxygen came in, and the towel combusted.
Oh, I get it. This is what you told the police, right? I wasn't smoking. It was the towel.
The towel does a lot of things.
The towel was smoking, not me.
John,
not me, Stephen.
You call the fire department and tell them you had bad plums?
No, I I did not call the fire department because we're in an unincorporated part of the valley, so I would have to pay $300 if they showed up.
Holy smoke!
Is that how you get around the weed laws? Is that how you get around the drug laws, being in an unincorporated part of the valley?
There's no. First off, I'm in Arizona. There are no drug laws here.
Oh, well, that makes it easier. Okay.
West. But I don't do drugs, sir.
Well, not anymore. After that.
No, not. I never. I don't. It's not a thing that I do.
That's right. You're out with Deputy Frank Sloop.
Well, he just retired.
Get out.
Yeah, he's gone. There's somebody. He got his replacement was just sworn in. I don't remember who it is, but Frank didn't retire. It's the sheriff retired. Deputy Frank Sloop is still there.
Okay.
Sorry, I was like Sheriff Lamb. He retired, and so but Friday with Frank. Yeah, there's the 24, which is 3 miles from my house, and that's where he patrols. I've seen him a couple times. He's not.
Oh, okay.
He hasn't pulled me over, and I haven't pulled him over to say hi or anything because I just, he's just kind of around, and I don't want to get pulled over by him because if you do, you get a ticket, and then you get on TV. People who love to watch, you'd be watching, and be like, "That's Catholic comedy. I know him," and then it'd be weird.
Nobody says that. Who are you talking?
I know you because you would have plums in the glove box.
You would know me because on the back of my car, my wife, to advertise her festival, put the website so on the back of our car and our van, there's the website CatholicComedy.com is plastered on the back of it. So if I get pulled over on one of those things, you'd be like, "Oh, hey, look, CatholicComedy.com." It's actually pretty good advertising.
You'll be blurred out, but Catholic comedy will come through.
Oh yeah, everyone will be like, "Oh, that's Catholic comedy, wow!" And then
you wouldn't be able to associate with the festival anymore.
My van, the license plate for the van is Deus Volt, and so that'll show up probably. Although they might blur that out.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I don't hide it very well. What was your favorite bit, John? I'm trying to ask this question.
You can't ask that.
Why can't I ask him? It's like asking who's your favorite child. It's very easy to answer.
Impossible to pick that. Impossible.
No, there were a number of them. I did like Meatballs and Consequences. So that was a lot of fun. And then the Magellan song that Paul and I wrote that was pretty enjoyable. And some of the songs were a lot of fun. My cousin used to be a teacher, and she would use them in class to demonstrate how you cross the Panama Canal, since it's historically accurate, or Magellan's journey to the Philippines, which was accurate. So
it's really quite sad, or quite. It was really not fair. Farewell, farewell, poor sweet Magellan. What is it? The something island.
You found the East Indies.
We're just over there.
Yeah, yeah.
It was good.
Yippee-Ki-Yo was public domain, so we didn't have to pay any money on that.
Well,
we just had to do our own arrangement for it. So that's why a lot of the songs sometimes sound familiar, because they are.
Right. You got the voice actor who did the voice of Yakko going around at all those conventions singing the world's like the country song.
Yeah.
And like he didn't write it, he just sang it. And and people are like, oh, that was so great that you did it. The writers deserve the credit.
Right. Rob Paulson. Yeah. Randy Rogel would write all these songs. States, capitals of all the states, all the countries in the world.
The Ingredients song.
Yeah, he had a real knack. He had a knack for that.
I love the Ingredients song.
I just posted the other day on Twitter in anticipation of this, and it's timely. Also, I said the Warners are way ahead of the curve on the health crisis.
They changed it for rebroadcast because it used to end with we'll shove them in our bodies till they make our inside rot, and then they changed it to remember it's your body and the only one you got. Yeah. Just like they changed the president's song, because there's like the one in charge is playing to scene. It's Clinton, first name Hillary, and then they changed it on the rebroadcast to Clinton's Bill and Hillary.
Oh, okay.
Now the Clintons appeared in Animaniacs. The Clintons appeared in Freakazoid. Did the Clintons appear in Pinky and the Brain?
Oh yeah,
they did, right?
Probably.
Sure. I mean, they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. George H.W. Bush appeared. Paul did that green eggs and ham bit with him.
What were the differences writing for the different shows? Was there a difference? Was it just kind of like the same vibe from show to show?
It was pretty much. We were blessed in that the department was run by Jean McCurdy, and she would issue mission style orders. She trusts the producers, like Alan Burnett and Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, to turn out Batman without her micromanaging it, or Tom to turn out Animaniacs or anything else, or us to turn out Freakazoid, without hovering over us all the time and telling us how it should be done. So she would basically rely on the folks in charge to come up with the product, and that was a great way to do it. It's hard not to work your best for someone who trusts you like that. So, but things changed. The network eventually, grew larger, the WB, and executives are like shower mold. They just simply increase in size and darkness. And
I remember when I was a kid, and this will date me, but my parents got a package of Kool-Aid Burst. I don't know if you remember Kool-Aid Burst, but on the package of Kool-Aid Burst was an advertisement for Kids WB, which was coming out that fall. And I thought they just added new bits to Animaniacs. So I didn't know it was its own full network thing. But I just remember being super excited seeing all the different stuff that was like Earthworm Jim, and it was Freakazoid and Earthworm Jim and some others like the Animaniacs, Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. I loved the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries. I watched that.
Earthworm Jim was good.
Earthworm Jim.
Long before you, I interviewed Doug TenNapel, and he's a good guy.
Oh yeah, Doug Langdale, I think, worked with him.
Yeah,
because he came over and joined us after a while. But yeah, that was a funny. I guess they had done a video game of that.
Yeah,
They did.
First of all,
Yeah.
and then that became that. Isn't Doug TenNapel in Tennessee now?
I
have
think
no
so.
idea.
Yeah, he's allowed himself almost to be bullied out of actively creating, unfortunately.
Well, he still makes Earthworm Jim comics because he still has the rights to it.
Not for a few years.
Oh yeah,
He got into the, God bless him, he got into the NFT thing and made a killing, and then said, well, everybody's basically attacking me for this, that, and the other thing whenever I do anything, so I don't need to anymore, and I'm not going to be bullied. And he'll create for his own sake, but he's not like producing like he was. I have the last 3 books he put out, and they're like prestige formats. He did like a Kickstarter. It's just as good as anything he's ever done.
Graphic novels.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Okay.
he did 2 volumes, I think, of Bigfoot Bill, another 2 new ones of Earthworm Jim, and they're phenomenal. I mean, gilded gold edges. I mean, if you bought in their oversized hardcover, you get what you pay for, unlike a lot of these people that do these Kickstarter things. And the writing is just as top notch as any of his stuff. But yeah, he's kind of just he has his like political leaning YouTube channel now, and he'll pop on X, formerly known as Twitter, once in a while. But he's not, unfortunately, he's not churning stuff out the way he used to, which is too bad.
Yeah.
We need more like him.
No, he's a funny guy. Did some good work. I did a script for him at Nickelodeon when he was doing Cat Scratch.
Oh, right.
Sure. I think Peter Hastings was over there as well, and one or two other folk. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to work for him.
I think that period in the 90s and some of the early 2000s is, I feel like all the cartoon shows largely have gone downhill since then. Certainly in humor and quality, and the writing is really banal. And
there's some.
The last thing I really remember enjoying was Regular Show, which was on Cartoon Network, and it kind of took me back a little bit to the glory days of things like Animaniacs. I mean, it was anarchy, and but smart, which is how I would describe the shows that you worked on. Obviously anarchic, but smart and tight and unique. Obviously, very unique. How much of it was just trying to think of the wildest stuff? I mean, were there things that you weren't allowed to that were cut for being just too? Obviously, there's a Marx Brothers influence with Animaniacs.
Oh yeah.
Where did that, was that part of the initial concept, and how much of that did you kind of bear in mind when writing? Like, these are basically the Marx Brothers.
Right. Well, I think Tom basically told us that he based it off his 3 sons, essentially. And, one of the things he said was watch the Marx Brothers, because when they're drawing, you've got 3 characters that you've got to put in frame. So that really crowds it. So watch how they kind of handled shooting them, with them all doing their various different bits of business and what have you. And, keep an eye on that in terms of how you get stuff out, how you get your humor across and what have you. So we would do that. We would watch them all, and try and Yakko, of course, was Groucho. Without feathers, and so we keep that in mind and do that, and it helped us conceptualize when we came time to write things down.
Was there ever the thought of making one of them mute a la Harpo, or is that something that just would not have worked in the animation space for kids?
It might have worked with a standalone character.
Yeah,
Ingmar.
If you built the world around that and his reactions and what have you. But in something as fast-paced as Animaniacs, a lot of that would be lost.
Sure.
You wouldn't really be able to, I think, milk that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
They had one. It was in Freakazoid. It was Ingmar, his mute butler.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just stand there and go.
Right, but
that was great.
The whole point of Ingmar was announcing his muteness.
Right.
Not really trying to get anything more. out of
Yes, Ingmar, my mute butler.
Yeah. Went on to a rodeo career.
Right. Oh man, I'll have to avoid another voice actor. It's good.
Well,
Steven,
we got Jonathan Harris to replace
He did.
him. So that
was Jonathan. It's like one of his last roles that he ever did while alive was playing Freakazoid's butler in Freakazoid. Like Jonathan Harris, like brilliant actor, stage and screen, and like just fantastic. And one of his last roles is playing a butler on a kids' TV show.
Oh, he was a character. I mean, this is a guy that was acting on stage in New York with Tallulah Bankhead in the 1940s. I mean, he had tales upon tales that he would regale us with. Paul and I got to be pretty good friends with him. We'd go out to lunch with him even after the show ended, and we'd hang out with him every now and again. And he was a really good guy. They were doing a film version, I think, of Lost in Space at the time, and he was telling us that they had contacted him, if he wanted a little bit part in there, and he said, "I don't do cameos," So
my father, this one of the few stories. My father, he told me that he was driving, and he was like driving in New York City or something like that, and he was stopped at a red light, and then the drop right next to him. He pulls up, and my father just turns and goes, like, "Dr. Smith?" And he goes, "Indeed, sir," and then drives away.
Just what you want. Just what you want. I love those older stars. I don't like a lot of this new crop of, I guess, what we're calling movie star. I spend a lot of time when I'm on YouTube watching interviews with like the greats. I love Orson Welles.
Oh, he's well worth watching. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
and even the outtakes from the commercials he did are just wonderful. There's this one, I forget what it's for, but
it's not the Paul Masson wine.
I've seen that one, of course. Yeah. But this is one where he's sober actually, or as close as he got it in those days. But he's reading the script, he's reading the text, and he can't help himself from picking out the inconsistencies. This doesn't work. This is grammatically wrong, and telling the people who couldn't care less, that just want to get out of there and shoot. But his mind is always so sharp for all things cinematic. He can't help himself.
A big dish of peas, and she's picked them already.
That's it. That's the one. That's the one.
That was the inspiration for Brain. That was the voice of Maurice LaMarche's Brain.
Yeah.
Was that? Yes, always. Just that was.
Well, I know that, but I was trying to make a smooth transition, Stephen.
Okay, so transition away, sir.
Well, you've ruined it.
This is 2025. You can transition however you'd like.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, I get. Yeah. I see what you did there.
Yeah, because I went and it's a
I caught that. Very good.
Yeah, cool.
Very good. Well, sir or madam. But I love hearing about. Paul Rugg tells us always the stories. Ricardo Montalban coming in and doing same kind of vibe. Just these people these men that I would imagine their presence just fills the room when they're there. Like when they're there without them having to do anything outlandish. Did you have a favorite? I guess we call them guest star or celebrity that you worked with on the shows that was just always up for a gag. Is there one that stands out for you, or a couple that stand out? There were so many that, especially in Animaniacs, that came and went on the show there.
Yeah, I always liked Ed Asner. He was just fantastic. He never quite understood why we asked him to do less. He'd put a little English on a line sometimes, and we'd say, Ed, if you could just read it dry as old toast, and well, all right, and he'd go ahead and do it, but it was
cut it out.
Great, yeah, got it out, yeah. And then of course Jonathan Harris was great.
Sure.
You know, we'd build in a scream for him in every episode he was in, and he wouldn't hold back. Those old lungs were leather. You know,
Wow.
he'd cut loose. And then Ben Stein, we used him a couple of times.
Oh, sure, yeah.
He was a lot of fun to do. And most of the people we got in, it was such Andrea Romano, who was our voice director. She really ran a fun ship. You know, she'd have everybody. I mean, nowadays it's mostly a la carte. You know, you might come in alone, and it's just you and the director to work it out. But you'd be sitting in there with a group of people, and when you did your rehearsal, it was okay to laugh. It was okay to have a good time. And so you'd do a run through of the script, and then you'd record it for keeps. And it was really good. Everybody was there. There was an energy in the studio, and so the actors were able to feed off that energy and just really come up with stuff that really come up with readings that were impressive.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's so many amazing things and so many amazing stars that worked on that show. So none of them were ever there under protest or because they wanted to be associated with a Spielberg production. They were all genuinely there because they wanted to be part of the fun.
They were working actors. You know, David Warner. Yeah. David Warner was working on the Titanic, at the time, and he'd
sure.
come by. You know, it was a paying gig. There they were, and so, but they were pros, and it was just great to work with them and try and get a laugh out of. You know, have them laugh at one of your lines was always a great feeling. You know, something you wrote and they enjoyed it. So those were little moments you'd bask in.
Sure. Did you ever anticipate when you were starting in comedy that you might end up writing for animation or something like Saturday Night Live, the trajectory of getting on there, something that you thought of, or were you just kind of thinking to stay in improv and stand up and ride that as long as you could and everything just came along and it did?
Yeah, no, the feeling generally was, you're in improv to get out of it.
Right.
To get a job, to get on a show if you could. I mean, a lot of people got their start on The Simpsons, and they did quite well. I mean, that was a high level of talent, still is, and people would hope to get on that. Like, we had a couple of people in improv in the groups below ours that got onto The Simpsons, and then from there were able to make the jump to sitcoms, which is where I thought, I might eventually go. But, for years at Warner Brothers, I wasn't working on anything I didn't like. So it was really, I really didn't want to be anywhere else. There was no show that I felt I wish I were there instead of here. I was just really delighted to be there. It started to change toward the end, but
sure, yeah,
and then when it ended, and I got out in the animation, I realized I have no idea. I have no idea what this world is like, because I've been sort of a kept man for many years, and now all of a sudden I got to go out into the cold world and make a living. So it was quite an eye opener.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Long Island, and when I was doing improv in small groups on Long Island, everyone's thought was, somehow we're going to get on SNL because we're in New York already. And if we just hop on the train often enough and go to the after parties and we'll meet the cast members, which I did. I did at one point actually meet some of the cast members at an after party. And this was not the peak of SNL. This was like Horatio Sands era, which is fine. It's not like, but nobody that I know ever ended up doing that. And most of them ended up just dropping out of comedy altogether. I drifted in and out of improv groups and dabbled in stand-up and did some straight theater and Shakespeare and stuff like that. But eventually I realized, like, it's just, I guess I didn't know how to pursue it. And I think that getting on something like Animaniacs would have been incredible, because I think in some ways, I should ask you rather than say I think, but do you think that in a lot of ways, in some ways, animation is almost the purest place for comedy because you don't have the restrictions that you do anywhere else. You can, if it can be drawn, it can be done.
Well, at one point, yeah, but with CGI is so advanced right now. It's really astounding. And before it used to be that if you're going to do something animated, then you got to use the medium. You got to make it squash and stretch. You got to make it the background disappear. I just came across. I was looking at some stuff, kind of getting ready for this, and I found an old note from Freakazoid, and it said, "Work more on wild transition and strange cutaways and all this other stuff. Make sure it's style over substance because we don't know what the substance is yet." So, and I thought, well, and then it was like I found some memo I had sent to Tom. I said maybe we should just have everybody write a half page about what they want to do, so that we don't keep bouncing back scripts because we don't know what the story is, and they didn't hit it. So basically it's telling all the writers to guess again, which is the ultimate nightmare. You don't get a note, you just get told, now try again. That came later in life, but at the time I was the guy doing it. So
yeah, wow, not without a lot of direction there. You just kind of could be floundering.
We didn't know. They said, here you go. It's January. You're on the air in September, so the pressure was on.
Wow. Well, I think Paul had said something along the lines of they originally wanted, because of the success of, I might be remembering this wrong, please correct me, but something like because of the success of the Batman show, they wanted another superhero show, and Paul and you guys didn't really want to do a superhero show, and somehow it became Freakazoid. Is that somewhat right? Am I remembering that somewhat
right?
Correctly?
Well, Steven had wanted some sort of dark Batman.
Yeah.
That this psychotic sort of Freakazoid character, and these guys were working on it, but at the same time, they had Superman in the background. That had already been greenlit, and that was going to come up in September also. So, in a way, they were kind of in a hurry to get Superman done. They'd done some development on it, and so we ended up with this guy. And our tendency wasn't to make him into a dark character. We wanted to make him into a funny one, but we weren't quite sure how to do that and what the restrictions were, and how he turned from Dexter Douglas into Freakazoid and back. So it was just crazy. I think I heard on the one with Paul, he mentioned pull this string.
Yes.
Because we had gone with Tom Ruger over to a movie theater in the mall where we worked, and we saw Ed Wood. We were just
Amazing.
cracking up on that. That was so funny, and so we just throw stuff like that in and see what happened. It couldn't hurt. Sure didn't play against type, so yeah, it worked out okay.
So I remember I read something at some point that, because there's a Batman
5
episode.
minutes ago when I heard you Googling, is that when you read it?
No. So this is a story I remember, because there was a character called the Creeper on Batman, and that was like, it came out like the season before Freakazoid, and like there's something about how the Creeper was supposed to, like, it was an old cracked article talking about how the Creeper was supposed to be Freakazoid, but then Freakazoid turned into its own thing. And like, because you had Paul Dini was one of the producers of Freakazoid or something, wasn't he? And like he
was a writer originally,
right. But then he was big on the Batman stuff, and then like everything was just like, you know what, do your own thing. That's what I heard. I might, they may have been wrong. It's a cracked article. They make stuff up.
I think of Plastic Man more.
I had heard that creeper thing. If that was the character, that there was some character that was supposedly the origin of Freakazoid, but
he was supposed to he was a news reporter who was reporting on the Joker's, like it was like 10 years since the Joker had fallen into the pit and like the acid or whatever at Ace Chemicals, and then the Joker throws him in, and he comes out, and he's the Creeper,
green, and he has like a kind of a big
feathered boa,
yeah,
or something like that, and it's
almost
like he's
like,
just
almost looks like a mane.
yeah.
Wow.
So he's kind of crazy and like frantic and kind of Freakazoid-esque, but not exactly.
Right. Our guy ended up more surreal than anything else.
I love Freakazoid how he turned out. I mean, it's just.
But we were swimming in superheroes at the time. Even something as funny as the Tick.
I love the Tick.
Yeah, it was a hilarious show, and
Edlin, the genius. Yeah,
but it was basically, it was hero and a bunch of villains. Actually, a bunch of heroes. Actually, so we just wanted to play with the form, I guess, is what we ended up doing. We didn't set out to do that, but well, actually, Alan Burnett wrote on a couple of the early ones, and so did Dini. But then they were drawn back into the Batman Superman world.
Do you remember the Huntsman? The Huntsman's probably one of my favorite bits because it's like the theme song is longer than the actual episode itself, and like there's apparently a big deal. It's like how did that come about? If you recall how that came about, like in the writers' room where someone's like, "Hey, let's make the theme song longer than the actual sketch," right? Like,
well, once again, we had no writers' room, but I had an idea for the song, and then I said, "Well, this is kind of long for a, little character here," and then I thought, "Well, what if this is it? What if it just this is it? There's no crime and all." And
that was great,
except for the one that the almost crime that we boarded it. And I voiced his brother with Jeff Bennett. I was the huntsman's brother, trying to talk him down off a ledge because he was cracking up. And then he won. He fought a villain and won. And it was boarded and recorded and everything. But we were so over budget because the show got stuck with all of the development, everything that Bruce, Tim, and Dini and gang had done was all tacked onto the show. So, we had was becoming the most expensive, cartoon in Warner Brothers history. So, and also because, we were floundering around quite a bit. So that changed the next year when we started, saying, we'll do half-hour episodes come what may. Instead of these, short little bits, where they're expensive because every one of them's got to be shipped over, voiced. It's got to be drawn. It's got to be inked. It's got to be sent to, sent overseas to be done. So it was much more expensive, this sort of a la carte method that we had originally, than doing half-hour episodes, which you could sort of plan your costs around.
Interesting.
I had to learn all that.
Yeah.
So what happened to me? I'm talking about costs now.
I mean, I guess I get it because when I was a kid, I remember it went like I think you made a joke in the second season with like all of the other side characters like the huntsman popping like haven't had a show. I haven't been in an episode for months, something like that. Like
I don't know. I was on a moon, something like that. Yeah, they would have him saying little things like that, but which by then the WB was in full force and they loathed the show. So
it was probably
corporate gets involved.
Yeah, it definitely is not a show that like you would get put together by a committee of corporate like overlords. They wouldn't come together and be like, let's do another Freakazoid show. That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
A camel is a horse designed by committee.
That's pretty good. But it just changed. They wanted different things and didn't quite get it. So they had us on at like 7:30 in the morning, the second season.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the burglars aren't even home then.
I was
so,
up. I woke up every morning, every Saturday morning. I was up to watch because I was up at like 6 because before I think it was before you guys came on. There was some other shows that I would watch. Taxi, actually, oddly enough, was on a bunch of time, and then so it would be like reruns of Taxi, and then it would kick off the kids WB like 4-hour block or whatever, and I would watch. I remember I watched those. When that's what I would do Saturday morning, and then there was a weird thing that happened here. Fox Kids. The Fox affiliate dropped Fox Kids from their lineup, and it was picked up by the WB. So we had WB 61, which on Saturday would show the WB shows, and on Sunday morning would show the the Fox Kids shows. So
okay, yeah.
So I didn't have to miss it. I was able to watch both. So
yeah, it was strange that got moved later in the morning then, and eventually got sold to, well, everybody knows Cartoon Network.
Yeah,
I think picked up the last couple episodes, but yeah, it was 4 episodes, but nothing you could do about that. It's out of your hands at that point.
yeah,
I feel like it would have done fantastic a little bit later on Cartoon Network when they were really looking for all that surreal kind of stuff, and then they had the nighttime Adult Swim that they called it on Cartoon Network for the really kind of wacky out there stuff.
Oh,
and a lot of the guys that are back on network animation now started in some of those, like what's his name from does Bob's Burgers, John Benjamin. He was he was a Cartoon Network guy on a show called Home Movies, which was a very funny show, and he blew up after that on the back of that. But it was just it was that weird time where things kind of transitioned from, I guess, from network to these basic cable kind of niche areas. Cartoon Network is one of them.
Our approach eventually is what killed us.
Really?
Because the advertising for the show was for tweens, 8 to 12-year-old kids, and we've got high school kids and college kids and road gangs in Alaska. We got all kinds of people that don't buy tween products watching the show. So
but they must have known that on the back of Animaniacs. They must have known that because it was the same thing there, wasn't it? That's the audience that Animaniacs really started to draw. Didn't they know to change the advertising for, or is that just executive nature?
It's too hard to get beer and shaving cream and other things on the morning show. It's called Children's Fun Hour, brought to you by Miller.
Well, not now, it isn't.
Yeah. Well, God knows what it's brought to you by puberty blockers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it hurt. Animaniacs crossed over seamlessly.
Yeah.
The kids loved it. There were plenty of gags in there for mom and dad if they had to sit down and watch it. We had older audiences and all, and then Freakazoid was just its own thing. And while it drew the older crowd, the demographics were there for the network to see, and we were not selling Hot Wheels or whatever we were trying to sell.
Didn't something similar happen to Pinky and the Brain where they moved it to Sunday nights in order to and it didn't do well Sunday nights and they kind of killed it then too?
Oh, it got clobbered. They put it right up against, this is when 60 Minutes was still smoking hot. So they put it right up there. Let's see, we can watch the latest Clinton scandal, or we can watch 2 lab mice try and take over the world.
Well, see, the problem was, as a child, I wasn't watching Sunday night. Like, I wasn't watching TV Sunday nights, right? So I wasn't I didn't have control of the remote then.
Yeah, yeah. Probably so, yeah. It just, they try to run it Peter Peter Hastings was running that, and he tried. They got a lot of sitcom writers, and they were trying to run it like more like a sitcom. There, they had a writers' room, but for some reason, as try as they might, it just didn't, didn't snap. Though now it's, seemed to have picked up a tail.
Yeah.
A cult following. I mean, everything's got a cult following. Now with the internet, everything has a cult following.
Were you involved in the reboot of Animaniacs at all?
No, I
didn't think so. Paul neither, right? He said he wasn't really particularly interested in.
He was asked, I think.
He was asked. He said, yeah.
If he wanted to take part in that. I think the Bernsteins, Steve and Julie Bernstein, did the music, and then of course Mo and Rob were Pinky and the Brain, and there may have been a few others involved.
I didn't watch it.
But I didn't either.
It didn't seem like.
I saw some of the musical numbers that they put out there, and it wasn't like as child or friendly or politically.
It's like trying to put lightning back in a bottle. It's just not going to happen.
Right. I mean, you look at it, the studio looks at it and they said, geez, we got this property. It made a lot of money. No one who liked it then is alive. So let's put it out again, and we can market it any way we like and what have you. It's got a name. So, I'm surprised they haven't done that with more things, because for them, it's this is a property that they could possibly,
monetize.
They don't have any original ideas, so they're doing it with so many things, rebooting and
content is king.
Dragging Harrison Ford out of the retirement home and propping him up with a stick for Indiana Jones and
that was cruel.
Terrible, yeah. Elder abuse, it was.
Yeah. Oh. Well, and Disney's Snow White, they're they have
not going over well.
Yeah,
Little Mermaid and Lion King, everything.
Right. I mean, how do you take these things? The brand was set.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a money maker. These things, if handled correctly, would simply become cash machines, and now they're doing stuff, it's like doing the Heinrich Himmler comedy hour, and you wonder why it doesn't really go over. You can't seem to find an audience. It has a small but devoted audience, but you don't want them really.
Right.
So,
do you know there was a show in England called Heil Honey I'm Home, and it was a sitcom? Do you know this, John?
No,
that sounds like the British.
This is true. This is not me going off the reservation. There was a sitcom of Hitler and his home life, and it was called Heil Honey I'm Home, and it lasted about as long as you would think. And in England, in like the 60s, I think. Maybe our crack researcher down there will look it up for us.
Yeah, it was 1990, and one episode
was it
released,
really?
And then 6 episodes were never, or 7 episodes were never aired.
Wow.
It's
Comedy gold.
1990.
You would think Hitler, hilarious, right?
Well,
no.
The Germans, about 10 years ago, they did a movie called Look Who's Back. And somehow Hitler is outside the bunker and there's an explosion and he wakes up in 2015 Berlin.
Oh, I saw that.
And he stands up and he's in his uniform and all, and he's walking around and not quite getting it. And then somebody sees him and they think he's he's a street performer. And so this independent film guy starts filming him, and he takes him over, and he pitches it to a network. And Hitler is like Peter Sellers in Being There. He's himself the whole time, but everyone interprets him as being something else. In an odd way, it had some funny moments. It didn't take itself too seriously.
I mean, so long as you have a proper sense of humor, anything, like, you can really kind of take anything and showcase the absurdity of it, right? Like,
sure.
Like, yeah. I mean, Heil Honey I'm Home is probably pushing it. But
No, that should have been picked up.
no, I just don't see that happening.
It was too hammy. That was the problem. It wasn't the subject matter.
Oh no, of course. Like,
He hammed it up
nowadays,
too much.
Right. It was Monty Python had one of their sketches. They had, Hitler, Himmler, and Ribbentrop, living in a, Brighton, walk up.
Yeah,
and
you can do it.
They were pretending to be everyone other than themselves. They had like English names. I'm Mr. Hitler.
well, there was a
You can do these things. Like, it just takes the right nuance, and you have to be fearless. There was a show called there was a sketch comedy show on MTV. It lasted a season and got picked up somewhere else for half a season, called The State. And a lot of these guys have gone on to be wildly successful in comedy. But they had a skit that was called The Jew, the Italian, and the Redhead Gay. And it was a musical number, and it was all about the stereotypes of those three characters. The Jew was always spending the money on bagels and then asking for the rent so that he could save it, and the redhead gay was always wearing flamboyant outfits and playing the piano, and the Italian was always making a big tomato sauce. And it was played so straight. It was hilariously funny. But now people would not touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Oh no!
Have you ever?
And I'm sure a lot of the people that were in the sketch itself would disavow if asked about it. And that's the sad.
Tropic Thunder was as another one of those, like Ben Stiller,
wouldn't like that now either.
Ben Stiller now regrets or whatever, says that he regrets doing it. But that was, I mean, the whole thing was just a play on the absurdity of.
And at the time, the script was considered good enough to get Tom Cruise to put on a fat suit and tons of makeup, and do it. But now they would never, and to have Robert Downey Jr. in black, this would never happen. This would never happen now. And I can't think of a single funny thing. John, when you want to laugh these days, is there anything that's of current era that you would go to? Because I know for me, I got to go back to the past. I mean, it is the Marx Brothers, it is Laurel and Hardy, it is anything with Arsenic and Old Lace is probably my favorite movie ever. So I look to that stuff, because anything now, it's either not funny or it's so ham-handed with woke that I don't want to bother.
Ryan Long is pretty funny.
I've heard of him.
Stand-up comic. He does a lot of sketches. If guys, you can look him up on,
I've seen him. I know him.
Yeah,
I know who he is.
Pretty funny. Yeah. Bill Burr is pretty funny.
Well, even he's gone a little woke.
He dips in, but when it comes down to it, he'll hit it head on. A lot of times he'll go right for it. There are a couple other stand-ups out there that
Tim Dillon,
are not buffaloed by the by the woke crowd. They're willing to do that, and they're just funny guys. They see the absurdity in it. They're willing to go for it. And it takes a lot of courage. Otherwise, you're sort of in a group of people punching down. Like most of the late night hosts now.
Oh, please.
Essentially,
not this one.
Not this one.
Yeah. Well, you got all these other guys. I'm surprised they didn't fire 4 sets of writers and keep one, because they're all telling the same jokes anyway.
Would have saved money. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that's like a number one thing for a network. Then they can take the savings and award it to themselves as bonuses.
When Colbert had the dancing hypodermic needles, it was all over. The last late night show I remember enjoying was, I really got a kick out of the Craig Ferguson show. Because of so much of what I've said. It's like, it's total anarchy. I mean, he even had puppets. I mean, it was like the Muppet Show, but with real people.
Oh, yeah.
And that appeals to me. But there was a smartness there.
Yeah, we gave him, I think Paul mentioned it. Yeah, we gave him a boost. We gave him a boost up,
that's right.
In showbiz.
Yeah.
I had to go over to CBS once. They were talking to me about something, and they mentioned Craig Ferguson and all, and how we had given him a shot on Freakazoid, and I told him, I said, yes, I knew Craig Ferguson before he had people. So
But he did. Was it 3 episodes he did with you guys?
No,
A couple.
He did more. Yeah.
Yeah, he was at more of the second season because he was Freakazoid's mentor.
That's right.
Right. Paul originally wanted to do an Asian character, kind of like the guy in I don't know if you ever saw King of Comedy with Jerry Lewis and
Sure.
that oddball thing. Well, when De Niro shows up at his house, Jerry Lewis's houseboy is this Asian guy. He touch everything, Mister. He here now. He touch everything. And Paul wanted to do him like that, this excitable, and they didn't do it often, but they did that time. They said, "Nah, we don't want to, do the Asian guy." So Paul goes, "Fine, he's Scottish now." So, and so you could do Celtics and East Indians. You could do them over the top any day. Everyone else had an attorney.
Well, you could just make fun of Italians like this guy.
Hey,
yeah, well,
you still can.
But
I remember, I love that movie, Murder by Death, where Peter Sellers plays the Chinese detective. That's amazing.
Oh, that's so good.
I think that's better than Clue. I like it better than Clue, and largely because of Sellers, and also Alec Guinness, who's like my favorite. He's in that too, as the
and Falk.
Oh,
Falk was in there.
There was a ton of them. They were, just
amazing.
had them all in there. Truman Capote and
oh man, that's interesting casting there.
Yeah,
Truman Capote, who definitely couldn't act, but
Murder by Death was probably one of the funniest of the
I love it.
It's of spoof movies ever. Just that two twain, like that was the use your gosh darn indefinite articles.
Well, people don't, people from the 80s onward only know Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
But he was an absolute genius in comedy and drama. I mean, he was the Lady Killers and Kind Hearts and Coronets, where he plays, I forget how many, 7 or 8. No, it might be like 10 or 12 different characters in the same family. He was the mentor to Sellers, really. He was Peter Sellers' mentor for all that stuff.
Lawrence of Arabia, he was King Faisal.
Bridge on the River Kwai. Yeah. Guinness was incredible.
It's sad how sometimes
Catholic also, since Stephen loves when we talk about Catholic, Alec Guinness was a serious Catholic.
It's kind of sad that he because of Star Wars, everyone forgot everything else that he ever did.
I hate that. I hate that happened. And he didn't even understand it when he first read it. He was like, "What is this?"
Yeah, he said it was so badly written.
Yeah,
that he had a talk with them, to see if they couldn't goose up some of his lines a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out okay for him, but he didn't quite savvy the whole thing.
No, but at the same time, he's so good in it. He's so good.
Yeah.
Even though he thinks it's absurd, he doesn't understand it, he still plays it so straight and convincing. He's just amazing, and it's so good in that.
That's what I love. He was a real pro about it.
Yeah. That's what I like about a lot of these guys, that they all have in common. They're professional, and they're talented. They're legitimate. They work hard, even if they don't have. Well, who would you consider? What do you consider influences on your writing? Or when you're envisioning how your writing will be performed, do you ever envision certain people or are influenced by certain people, or is it just off the cuff stuff and comes from where it comes from?
No, we had a lot of like we said, Marx Brothers, Monty Python. Paul and I were big fans of them and their absurdist approach to things. Jonathan Winters was a guy who inspired me very much. So, I just try and stay open to see what's going on today, and there's plenty to make fun of.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The spoof movie is kind of dead because Hollywood is so ridiculous on face that it's difficult to spoof.
They're rebooting The Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen.
They can't. No, it's not. You can't do that.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
You can't reboot Naked Gun. I mean, Leslie Nielsen is dead. O.J. Simpson is dead. I think I pretty much everyone who.
No, they're rebooting it with what did I say? Did I say Leslie Nielsen?
Well, no, I know that he was in it. They're probably throwing some other comedian in there.
No, no, it's the Irish guy.
the Irish guy.
The guy that does
Liam Neeson.
Yes, thank you.
No.
Yes.
No.
Do your thing that you love to do. Google it while we're on the air, and you'll find out.
You can't do. You can't. 2025 Naked Gun. What?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Liam Neeson as Frank Drebin Jr. No.
Hey, told you.
What?
I told you.
That's the dumbest thing ever. See,
well, you know that, and I know that, and John knows that, but these people over there don't know that. They think it's a great idea.
Was it the Zuckers?
Yeah.
Were they doing that?
Yeah, and one of them died. David Zucker, didn't he? He died recently.
One of them died, yeah. But their sensibility was the driving force of that film. That was airplane-esque. It was very much like their Police Squad, short-lived Police Squad series.
So funny.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God, it was packed, packed.
Yeah.
House of Rattan. They're going to meet a suspect there, and the place it's 10 o'clock at night, and it's hopping. Everybody's buying rattan, coming in and out with. And they didn't dwell on it. They just pushed it right on.
No, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Don't.
Every character was the straight man. Every character.
I hate when winking at the screen. I hate that. Just play it straight.
Yeah. Those guys. I don't know. Without those guys, where would you find a good director?
Have you seen Angie Tribeca?
No, I don't think so.
It's a fairly recent, just probably in the last 10 years. It was Steve Carell and his wife put together the show called Angie Tribeca. That's very Naked Gun-esque, where like there's no winking and nodding at there's no wink and nod at the camera, but they play the whole thing straight, but it's just these ridiculous situations, and it's a parody of like the serial cop dramas, and like I watch it, and there were scenes that just I won't say that you guys should go watch it. But there were scenes in that I literally collapsed over laughing because Steve Carell knows comedy. He's one of the.
I can't think of anything that's made me laugh like that recently.
Yeah, I'm saying like Angie Tribeca is a weird one, and it's Steve Carell and his wife, and they just were given like carte blanche. The first and second seasons are good, and then like the third and fourth season get weird and odd and bad. But the first and second seasons are like really. Like you'll feel like you were watching Police Squad again. It's pretty good.
That's a big claim.
Is it on Netflix or?
I don't. So it was on. I don't know. I gotta look it up to see what it's on. But I bought it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So I just bought the episodes because somebody had at one point said that it was like a modern day Police Squad. So it's on HBO Max. If you have HBO Max.
Steven, this light is making me look like a tomato. Why did you tell me to do this?
I told you not to.
You said that looks good. Here,
I just think
that.
It looks like a splotchy tomato. Yeah.
Well, it's a splotchy tomato, or now it's a splotchy turnip.
Turnips aren't bad. I like turnips.
Ugh.
Well, not to eat, but to look at.
What do you do with them? No, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Angie Tribeca is a good show. Is what I'm saying. So we watched the first and second season, and they're pretty good. And the cast on there, like some pretty.
Who is it?
So Rashida Jones, Jerry Burns.
Jerry Burns. Okay.
Yeah. Dion Cole, who was one of the writers for Conan before he decided to do his own thing. Heather Graham.
Yeah, because that worked out great for Andy Richter.
Look, I'm not saying that it worked out for this guy, but James Franco is in it a bunch. Bill Murray's in it.
Bill Murray?
Yeah, not often.
Bill Murray's in it.
I mean, if you call his phone number, you might be able to get him on this show because he just kind of answers people's requests. But it's got just a bunch of like random
you don't
stars
know what
in
Bill
it.
Murray you're going to get, is what I hear.
That's true.
You're either going to get the amiable clown, or you're going to get the one that punched Chevy Chase.
I mean, on a podcast, you really want either. So.
Well, if he punches you, I'm okay with it.
Well, that's not a podcast. We can't punch me anyway. But
I can punch you.
Anyway, it's just like a smattering of Hollywood stars, because Steve Carell is a Hollywood star, and he can just pull people in and ask them to do ridiculous things. So, and it's pretty funny. So, I mean, the things modern day that I have watched that I've enjoyed were Andrew Tribeca, 2023 Haunted Mansion. If you haven't seen it,
No, don't start at that. Oh, come on.
It's a good movie.
No, it's not. No, it is not a good movie.
Watch it. Watch it and tell me. You can't tell me otherwise unless you watch it. Danny DeVito is
I can. I don't have to watch. I don't have to watch Swamp People to tell you it's not the most intellectually stimulating show on TV. But I can.
I'm not saying that Haunted Mansion 2023 is intellectually stimulating.
That's not the point.
You know what? It is. It is actually. It's just really good.
No, it's not.
Look, I love Haunted Mansion generally, and I was going into it thinking it would be terrible.
I know.
See, right. If you can't look right over there, that is a blueprint of the original Haunted Mansion, right?
I don't want to see that. We're going to get copyright struck. Just stop.
It's just a blueprint, okay? It's on my wall.
I don't know. No.
Anyway,
Disney is. They're gonna.
But I'm being positive. They might like it. We might.
Eddie Murphy will call up and yell at you like he did David Spade.
Well, first off, Eddie Murphy was 2003, not 2023. So 2003.
How many of these things are there?
There are two. There are two.
Well, they're both. I don't want to know about either one of them.
Look, the first one is really campy and it's not that great, but I still enjoyed it. But
campy is good.
Right. But the one in 2023 is actually just a really good flick. Like if it had nothing to do with the ride, it would still be a good flick. But they released it
having to do with the ride makes it great.
No, I'm saying if it had nothing to do with the ride, I still would say it's a good flick.
Who's in it?
They released it, so it's got like I said. Well, now I'm gonna blank on the names because
that's how good it is, Steve.
No, it's the guy who talks like man.
The guy that talks a lot. That's you.
No, 20. That is me. So it has Danny DeVito, Jared Leto, Owen Wilson,
John is falling asleep.
John is fine. John loves this. Winona Ryder. So it's got a and
let me guess, you like the new Beetlejuice too.
I did not see the new Beetlejuice, and I'm not going to see the new Beetlejuice.
You surprised me, sir.
I did not like the original Beetlejuice, and I don't
understand it. It's one of the few Tim Burtons that I don't get it.
I don't get most of Tim Burton's.
You know what it is? You know why? I'll tell you why. It's because we're Catholic. So our understanding of
death
is pretty set. Yeah. And so
what
is this?
Beetlejuice is just taking place like most of those are in purgatory, and then the sandworm drags you to hell. So that's one way of looking at it. But yeah, I mean, if you watch
theologically sound,
yeah, I mean, so there's like I know that there are secret Catholics in Hollywood, and I watch some movies.
Over here.
I watch some movies, and I'm like, there's a secret Catholic on there, or somebody.
You say that about every movie.
Good. Not every movie. Not.
You said that about Boogie Nights.
I did not. I've never seen.
I said no, Stephen.
I've never seen Boogie Nights.
Secret underlying Catholic theme in Boogie Nights. I'm pretty sure.
Not
you insisted.
In my entire life.
There is.
I've never seen
about the duality of man's nature and all this nonsense.
But in Boogie Nights?
I never saw Boogie Nights.
That's what he said.
I never saw it.
It's very Catholic if you think about it.
No, I didn't.
It's actually very moralistic if you think about it.
That's what he said.
You are the fruit of your actions.
I guess you were right, Stephen. John agrees with you. So shows around. What do I know? I thought it was just a dirty old movie about pornos.
Yeah, but what happens? You know what happens when they dabble in that?
Bad things.
Yeah,
bad things. That's true.
Bad Times at the El Royale is another secret Catholic movie. So that's a movie with Jeff Bridges, Chris Hemsworth, John Hamm, Dakota Johnson. Anyway, so basically they go to this hotel, and it's on the border of California and Nevada. And so half of the hotel has gambling, half it doesn't. But the hotel's basically abandoned, and it's a story of these people. I went to see it in theaters because I read a review that said that all the people were in purgatory, and that's the whole point of it, was that they're all in purgatory. I'm like, oh, I'm going to check this out. It's not that. That's not what actually happens. But there are very Catholic elements within it. Jeff Bridges plays a fake priest who's pretending to be a priest because he doesn't get asked questions that way. And then in the end, but he does good things.
Even why has our show now turned into Siskel and Dilbert?
I'm just saying there are good movies that have come out in the last 10 years. But if you think about it, you think about all the movies that came out in the 80s, right? And 90% of them were just hot garbage, right? And of the 10%, maybe 10% left over, you're like 2 or 3 that you really enjoyed. and then some that were just like okay. But most of the movies that came out, like the music from the '60s, most of that was hot garbage. We only remember like 2 or 3 artists from any particular decade. I'm just saying that when you're looking at modern day, you're looking at the modern day with your modern day eyes, and what you're seeing is
I don't have those.
What you're seeing is all the garbage that comes out because that's pumped at you, but a lot of that will be
I'm not
washed
seeing all the
away.
garbage that comes out. You're trying to get me to see all the garbage that comes out.
I'm just saying a lot of that gets washed away with the sands of time or whatever you want to say.
Yeah, because you know why it gets washed away? Because if I watch these movies you're telling me to, I'm gonna have to wash my eyes out.
Some of them, maybe.
Do you remember the emergency stand in the bio lab in high school?
Yes.
I'd have to get one of those.
You don't have one in your house?
And then the water bill is going to just go through the roof.
I'm just saying, like, you should have one. You should already have one in your house.
Okay, well, I'll expense you on it.
I will not pay that expense. Denied.
Oh, well, it's easy to give advice and then not back it up with dollars, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could pay them off in plums.
That's true. The street value of plums these days is crazy.
I don't think I feel like there's a double entendre there that I'm not getting, but plums are delicious and I do enjoy them.
Yeah, we know plums are delicious.
And plums, so when you're talking about plum pudding, anything that was a dried fruit is considered to be a plum for the English, for the Victorian age.
That's not true.
It is true.
That's
why plum pudding doesn't have.
You said that last time, and I said I don't think that's true. Turns out it's not true.
Plum pudding doesn't have plums.
Figgy pudding.
Figgy pudding does not have figs.
It has figs. It does have figs.
No, figgy pudding had figs. Plum pudding doesn't.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You know what? I never do, and this is why this is great television. John McCann, how's it going?
I'm sorry. Were you talking to me?
No, I don't know if I was. Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain.
I don't know who he was talking to.
Yeah.
I liked that show when I was a kid, and I remember watching it, and there was like this weird subplot of like a secret government agency that was trying to go after the Brain, and I don't think it ever got
describing the shows he worked on to him.
I'm saying I don't think it ever got a payoff.
John, let me explain Animaniacs.
Canceled.
You see the premise.
I'm just saying. What did you work on that plot line? And if you did, what was going to be the eventual outcome of it? Because I don't think I saw it actually, or maybe it got buried under it, but I don't know if it got. Because you told me about the third like the other Huntsman.
What on earth are you talking about?
Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain had the subplot about how like a government agency was after the Brain. I want to know how.
Are you telling him?
I'm asking him. I'm asking him how.
Basically it was so that we could hear Jeff Bennett do Christopher Walken. I mean, that's what really drove it. And then we thought, oh well, it's good to have it, but we never got a chance because then they split the show apart into fragments and then parceled them out as they saw fit. So there was never any real chance to to take it anywhere.
Okay, so was there a plan for it? I just no. Okay.
I mean, if one developed along the way, then we'd have followed it. But it was just good for the moment.
Okay.
That's basically how we lived on that one. It was moment to moment. So,
but I needed to ask that because I don't know how much longer we have you here.
He needed closure on that.
I needed closure, and my closure was there's no closure. So that's that's great.
You see how crestfallen he is now?
It's very much like life.
Yeah.
It is sometimes the shows that you want.
Great philosopher once said, "You can't always get what you want."
Right. You have plans, and then there's how things are. So.
It's like whatever you thought was going to happen when you grew that beard, it just turned out like this. You didn't know.
First off, my beard worked out just fine. If I shaved it, my wife was going to be very upset.
This was on purpose.
Yes, actually. Okay. So I got this beard by accident.
Fine.
My wife likes it, and if I shave it, she's mad at me.
Yeah, don't change it then.
Yeah,
if your wife likes it,
then you got to start all over with something else. Then.
So essentially, what your wife said was, cover as much of your face as possible while still being accepted in society. How can you do that? Big beard. Yeah,
no, that's that. I mean, I wear that burlap sack sometimes, but not on air.
I told you don't do that when you're driving.
Right, and it's just because then you have to blur out the name of the brand of potatoes because you don't want to get like copyright strike for that. So,
That's true.
but you do keep the Pac-Man right behind you because that's fine. You know.
Yeah, that's odd that we haven't been. We're not making any money, but if we were, it would be in jeopardy.
I think
That's
you need
right.
more than like 200 people watching at a given time.
My whole John P. McCann channel was just demonetized.
For what?
Which is fascinating because it's like being fired from a job you never had. You know, I didn't make any money on it. I hadn't even posted anything in a while, but I had an old video. They sent me a note and they said, I'd done a video last year. I'd found these pictures online that the FBI took of the interior of the Unabomber's cabin.
Mm-hmm.
I said, boy, that looks grim. So I found some downbeat music and I put it over it. And then I titled it The Unabomber's Grim Cabin. And then I just read, it was 34 seconds, maybe 300 people watched it. And life went on. And so two weeks ago, I get a email from YouTube and it said, you have violated our content on violent extremist groups. We have taken down your video. And I said, well, wait a minute, there's got to be an appeal here. I said, first of all, he wasn't a group, no matter what he thought. And he was in no way praised. In fact, there was nothing in the video that said, come follow me. You know, quite the opposite. If you want a grim, tough life, you know, living like a hobo in Montana, then come on ahead, you know, make your own bombs. So I said, they can't be serious. So I explained that as best I could. And then they, not only did they come back and say, we have rejected your appeal, the video will stay down. But by the way, buddy, we just demonetized your YouTube channel. I go, are you high? So this is where it stands right now, you know, and then the things they claimed they were demonetizing it for were, you know, there were licenses on music that said, okay to use on YouTube if you aren't making money. So that was me. So I don't know where to go right now with it. I want to figure out a way to re-edit the video and then jam it up their ass somehow. But I'm
Children's
not sure.
television writer John P. McCann.
I'm not sure it's worth the effort, but
I mean, we'll just put it up on Chris's channel, and
oh, good,
that's fine.
Sure.
I might put it up on X. I might put it like a bare bones version on X. I'll speed it up because no one will sit through 34 seconds of this. But I mean, you just cry. And it's really depressing.
Meanwhile, the cabin is getting $1,200 a night on Airbnb.
And it's in Virginia now. You know, the FBI plucked it up root and branch, literally, and took it back east.
Well,
so
Steven Spare,
so they put their kids in it. I don't know.
Probably. If Steven Spare keeps making that screeching witch sound, he might get a copyright strike from Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions for John, Steven?
I have so many more questions for John.
Well, you get one more, I think.
Oh man, just one. What was your favorite Sylvester and Tweety mystery?
What is it with you?
I love this show.
Oh, Rome on the Range. Because I
remember that one.
Yeah, I don't think it ever got made, but that's been my favorite. So.
Well, what happens in Rome on the Range?
I had been.
Technically, that's two questions, but it's okay.
That's okay.
It eventually ended up in a chase all over Rome.
Okay.
Which I just been there that summer, and so you know, I was keen to work in all the places I've been. But there was another one. There was one about a castle in Ireland that I did that I enjoyed. I forget the name of that, but you know, it was very Scooby-Doo-ish. You know, there was a ghost, a legend, this or that. You know, but it was fun. It was really kind of a fun show.
A cat that tries to eat a bird, a dog that beats up the cat, and then the granny solves the mystery.
Yeah, Tom Minton worked on that for years. You know, he did quite well.
I watched it. I watched it as a kid. It was one of the like I sat down. It was me and a bowl of cereal and like 4 hours of only
Takes you
getting
4
up at
hours to eat a
commercials.
bowl of cereal.
I mean, I had several.
Hell of a bowl.
Yes.
Hell of a bowl.
Punch bowl, just
Yeah.
huge and just filled
Yeah.
with cereal.
Well, if you're
Right.
pausing after every 2 spoons to take a little
No, I was a kid.
a little sip of the plums.
No, stop it. Stop the.
Well,
I was a child and I haven't done any recreational drugs. I didn't even take Tylenol.
Now, for you, drugs is a serious business.
I don't like drugs. I don't like taking anything that could potentially alter my mind, which is why I have this allergy issue right now because I'm not going to take an Allegra. No way.
Is that for allergies?
Yeah, Allegra D.
One of those impotence pills, is it?
No, I don't have any.
No.
I don't take any impotence pills either.
Steven,
not with 7 kids.
No.
Oh, that's true. Well, he's probably got a stash of them. Got a stash of Allegra there. He's eating off of.
Allegra is an anti-allergy pill. I think it's an antihistamine.
Well, I don't know what clogs your pipes if it's allergy. I mean, I don't want to know about this, Steven.
This is quality television. Quality television.
John, I have one cliche question for you. If someone were looking to get into, a young person, to comedy writing as a career, what advice would you give them besides maybe don't do that?
Yeah. Make it the second most important thing you want to do, and have a real job. But boy, it's tough. It's tougher now to just write. I mean, you'd really have to go to a lot of clubs. Or YouTube anyway, to get a sensibility of what's going on, what's going over, who's hot, who has a sense of humor similar to yours that you think you could sell. You'd have to do a lot of the research is there. I mean, you have YouTube and TikTok and what have you. You're able to use that, but
yeah.
Then you gotta get in touch with these guys, and then you gotta try and sell them. You're almost better off just doing it yourself. If you think you're funny, then just sit down and crank out a video and see if you can get some strangers to like it.
So
that seems it's more straightforward than the other way is a little more complex nowadays.
I sent a bunch of sketches to Steve, and I can't even get him to listen to them.
I have 7 kids, and it's hot. It's Christmas. It's Christmas. I work with you.
So tomato, potato. I did these great. I worked for a Catholic radio network for about a year and a half, and
remember that?
Yeah, I interviewed him as part of it. But I was like their cultural commentary guy, and I was also seeking out talented, Catholics and Stephen and putting them on doing interviews. And then eventually they said, "Hey, we want you to do news briefs about items in the culture, just straight like a news item on the radio, like today Bruce Willis, blah blah blah." Well, I thought that was boring. I got bored of that pretty fast, so I just started writing them as if they were bits on Weekend Update. They didn't care for that. But it was perfect because I had my own O.J. Simpson at the time because it was right when Alec Baldwin shot people on the set of that movie.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So every one of the bits became about that somehow. And the boss was like, "You need to write something about someone other than Alec Baldwin." So then I would write a whole thing about everything else, but it would end up being about Alec Baldwin.
The Pope has a hot encyclical out, and we're wondering, could you give us 5 minutes on that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll drop everything. Drop everything,
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, well, I'm not interested in that. So I left there pretty soon after that. But anyway, I sent them all to this guy, and they're short. They're like 30 seconds each, but he won't listen to them.
I'll listen to them this week. Maybe. We'll see.
He's got time for weed and turnips, but not for that, I guess.
Well, I mean, animal husbandry, he's got time for that, certainly.
Well, it looks like that's pretty well taken care of there on its own. Because
well, they like it because,
they're raring to go.
They're jumping him from behind. So
yeah,
he's doing something right.
I guess so. They learn it from the goats, he says.
Learn it from the goats. Well, I think we're about 45 minutes over time, and my wife just walked in here. My wife walked in here and went like this. So she wants me to wrap it up. Or there's something crawling around in the ceiling. Either way, we should probably wrap it up.
Or it's time for you to be a helicopter.
Yeah, there's a clock in your head.
There's all sorts of things. Or I'm about to get clocked in the head.
Or the rodeo has started.
Lots of different possibilities there. Thank you very much, John. And Chris, thank you for having me.
Or I want to play with my toy parachute man.
All possible.
This is a free country.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that. But anyway, glad to be here, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
John. A lot of fun. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Hopefully, we would love to get you and Paul on simultaneously at some point in the future and talk about all those things. That would be fantastic.
That'd be great. Yeah. We have all kinds of stories, some of them interesting. So
some of them saved for YouTube.
Yeah.
You're in California, right?
Yes.
Or you're not. So if you feel like driving out to the middle of Arizona on February 15th for my St. Philip Neri Festival, it's a Catholic comedy festival that I put on.
Oh, is it Catholic, Stephen? You don't say.
It's Catholic. I know. Paul Rugg will be there, as well as Jeremy McClellan. And if you can't make it out, and anyone who is watching this can't make it out, but still want to help out, if you go to catholiccomedy.com/festival, there is an option for you to buy a There in Spirit ticket, which is basically a donation. And we accept any donations that anyone wants to give. We appreciate it. We're just trying to cover costs. Once we cover costs, everything else goes to charity. So I appreciate any of that. But John, you are welcome to come out if you'd like to come out.
Well, and the
Father
links,
Paul.
The links for the festival and all the information are in the description of the show.
Right, which I'm going to have to get you a download of this so you could put it on your channel because you didn't stream it to there.
Yes, I did.
You did? No, I'm not seeing it on the list.
Well, I pressed the thing.
Oh, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
So that's my plug. That was my plug. Sorry.
That's his plug.
Yeah. So this is a family squabble now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good enough. It's good to hear.
Thank you so much.
Maybe I'll swing by and see if I can see Deputy Sloop out there and nothing else, trying to avoid a ticket. As charming and engaging as he is, I'd rather not.
I'll see if we can invite him to the festival. See if I'll have to speed up. He gives me a ticket. I give him a ticket to the festival. It'll be fun.
Tell him there are people there with expired licenses, and that should get him. That should get him going.
But Stephen, you said anyone that shows up that isn't Catholic gets put in the stocks.
Not the stocks. There's a special non-Catholic section. There is food and water there.
Has a paint on it, and their arms and their neck get stuck. That's stocks.
It's not a stock. It's not officially a stocks.
I don't know if you need a license to call it that, but that's what it is.
It's a pillory, actually, I believe is the technical.
Well, right. That's better.
Yeah, it's better somehow.
Oh, it's better.
It doesn't actually happen. Any of you Protestants out there who are listening, or atheists, we presume that you exist too. So anyone out there who's
we don't discriminate.
No one's going to be put in a stocks or a pillory, so we're fine. Just if you want to come up and you're not Catholic, you're welcome to, but everyone there is going to be super Catholic. So
you will be flogged.
Not flogged. All right, I'm going to have to get going before I get another.
You have the button, Stephen. I don't have it.
I know. So this is the part where we freeze.
Good night, everybody. Mwah.